On one hand, what do you see? Is it we are going to have a state police that is controlled, managed some way or the other by the state government, but when you now have funding directly from the federal government, what do you make of that level of what may be considered an indirect control in itself, if you understand my drift?
Yes, we see we govern by the breach. And we have to have a society that governs by the law, not by the breach of the law. First, the argument regarding policing is a constitutional argument. The moment you have a federation, you have legislative lists given to different levels of government. It goes without saying that every level of government is authorized to police. Because what's the point saying that your state House of Assembly can pass a law criminalizing certain activities, making capital offenses? You can pass a law, the law that says if you kill, you will be killed. It's a state law. The law that says if you kidnap, you will have life imprisonment. It's a state law. So why will a state have a government, have an assembly that can make law, have its own courts, but is not competent to have its own police? It doesn't make any sense. There are enough guardrails in the Constitution. Chapter 4 of the Constitution is exclusively for fundamental rights. And those rights are valid against federal police, state police, local government police, and any institution. So there are enough guardrails in the law already. Now, with respect to whether we trust the governor, if you don't trust the governors, why will you trust the president? There are histories of presidents misusing the police. So why have we not abolished the presidency or the federal police? So we should mature out of that and realize that it is one of the requirements of statehood that you should have policing. In fact, the word government has policing inherent in it. If you cannot police and you cannot enforce your writs, well, why are you called a government? So every level of government should have power to police. It's just that your policing power is limited to your constitutional jurisdiction. For example, there is nothing against a local government police, but the local government police will enforce sanitation laws, laws regarding markets and things like that, and traffic, hackney, and permit and all of that. So littering and things like that. So according to the power in the Constitution, that's how your policing will be. And I envisage a situation where, in due course, some state police departments or police units or formation or service will be better than the federal one. Because in many areas where we have seen it, for example, I lived many years and I practiced law in New York, I practiced law in California, and #1 police force in America, most professional, is the New York Police Department, NYPD. And maybe #2 will be LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. And they compete with the FBI. And if you recall, when JF Kennedy, President Kennedy, was killed in Dallas in 1963, the FBI was slow about it. It was the Dallas district attorney that said, well, somebody came to Dallas, you kill him inside Dallas, I'm going to investigate it. So most of what we know about the book depository, about the grassy knoll, whether there's one gunshot or two gunshots, how many killers, all came from the investigation conducted by the Dallas Police Department and the Dallas District Attorney. So we need to grow up. Once we say we are a federation, and federal is the first word in our Constitution, we should not worry about implementing it. Therefore, if you have a governor who is misbehaving, then you vote him out in the next election. How you abuse police or you don't abuse police, how you manage law enforcement, you don't manage law enforcement, will be part of what you will consider before deciding whether somebody is fit to be a governor or is not. And it is too surprising for me to hear people say that a state can't run the police because you can't trust them. But the state can run courts, and the states are running courts. And we go to court and defeat the governor or the government in their own court. So I think we should just professionalize the police, make sure that we ensure that we follow the law generally. And an abuse is an abuse, whether it's done by local government or done by state or done by federal. We can have we have constitutional provisions already, and we can professionalize the service. With respect to direct deduction from federation account, it is not new. Even state courts are supposed to be, state judges are supposed to be paid from consolidation. So the idea is that certain services are so essential that you can pay them from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. It doesn't mean that that money belongs to the federal government. What it just means is that the money is spoken for. It is not now left to the discretion of the governor, because the governor and assembly may divert policing funds and go and use to construct roads or outrightly waste it, and then you can't have people with guns on the street and they don't get paid. So I think it's not a bad idea. It doesn't mean that the federal government will control. But in any case, under our constitution, anything that is concurrent is subject to one constitutional principle we call covering the field. Whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's railway, anything, if the federal government and the state government have concurrent jurisdiction, the state law would defer to the federal law. That is how it is in Nigeria, it is in Australia, it is in India, it is in the USA, and Canada, anywhere that practices federalism.
Yeah.